Thank you, Corin. Thank you, Storytellers Bacon. Thank you, Grants Lounge. One thing I'm going to disclose, I am pretty awfully nervous about telling a story. As what Corin mentioned, I am an animal rights activist, so I'm pretty confident when I go with my megaphone and I'm going to protest or disrupting for the sake of the animals. And then here I am, I'm just kind of shaking. So it's a different world over here.
You're gonna do
so
great.
bear with me, plus I'm Thank you so much.
You got this.
All right, so the art of caring. This is my story. So we're gonna start off something, really heartfelt, right? So there I was, knife in my hand, chopping carrots. Right? That's what I do. It's all plant stuff. All right, here we go. So the art of caring. My story. Imagine a world where we all genuinely cared for one another. A world where there is no violence, no poverty, and there's no war. Wouldn't that be the greatest thing? Though it is defeating, as reality will always strike back instantaneously. There's no easy way to do this. Over 7.9 billion people would have to synchronize and harmonize for a total caring world to happen. That's pretty hard, right? That's kind of impossible. But there is a glimpse of hope. The world does not have to encompass the entirety of the planet, as what I'm depicting, nor everyone in it. The world can be scaled down to the ecosystem of an individual. That person has the power to choose how they act and interact within their own world, and to the many worlds that they bump into. So at this point, I don't mean to offend anyone or make anyone feel guilty about their level of caring. I'm just simply here to share my story. So here we go. My name is Mikee, and I would like to share my story and how I shaped my world with the principle of caring. Now, to paint the picture, I cared about the wrong things when I was a kid back in the Philippines, living between my parents, my dad and my mom, separated, and living my life in poverty. Really tough thing to have. I cared about repping the streets with me and my friends on our bicycle, just running the streets. Or establishing our corner. That's our place, that's our corner. Because why? Me and my friends over there in that corner, playing with our pogs. Does anyone know what pogs are? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that was our jam. Lo and behold, in the future. So on my teenage years, it's a different story. I cared about establishing dominance. So I bullied so many of my peers to gain the respect from them by instilling fear. I cared about strength. So I was always seeking street fights, just to show who's on top. And I cared about popularity. So I went to parties, a lot of parties. So my whole perspective changed when I finished high school, and suddenly I found myself not knowing what to do, and no one there to help me. And rightfully so, because that was my life. That's my responsibility. And it's not anyone else's. So in addition to that, with the way I acted, I'm not surprised that no one lent a helping hand to me. I was at a loss on how to move forward. Plus, the pogs that we were playing back when we were kids, kind of found out they're worthless at that time when I was a teenager. So nothing going for me on that point. So looking back, I did not necessarily blame anyone who chose not to help me, but I blamed myself for not investing any care back to me and to my future. So I did what other people may have done in my position with no direction whatsoever. I joined the military, you know? Something to where like there's a direction that's established for me. So at that point, my perspective started changing. For the first time ever, I was in a position that was more selfless than selfish. My day in and day out is to train so that I can have a better chance to defend our country and preserve our freedom. And it was such a great feeling to have that realization. Then I asked myself, man, this is awesome. You know, what else can I do, right? So with the limited knowledge that I have, I then find myself helping my peers in the military just to like rise them up, right? Like here, you know, lending hand. And when I felt that that wasn't enough, I started to look into like what can I do outside of the military. So I looked into the community. So helping out the community. I started with feeding the homeless. And let me get to my second page here. Then volunteering for roles like dressing up as Santa for a local preschool. And I like that so much that like I did it for 3 years straight, you know, like, and I'm like so far from looking like Santa Claus, right? So, but yeah, the kids bought it and made me happy. So yeah, I'll do it for another year and then the year after that. So at that point, I yearned for bigger roles. I was like, all right, what else can I do? I wanted to take in as much as I can while balancing being in the military still, and that's pretty time demanding on its own. So I often pondered, how else can I show others how much I care? So I looked into volunteer opportunities that had some considerable risks. So for a while, I was a volunteer firefighter, devoting my free time on training so that I can act as a service to others who are in dire need. As much as I mentally prepared myself for the emergencies involving fire, the type of stuff that I see in movies and TV shows, I also prepared myself for the things that I see in TVs and movies, which is firefighters go out there and save cats that are stuck up on trees. So it never happened, but like I was ready. So later on, I volunteered my time through Red Cross. I found myself there with the Red Cross. I joined a division called the Disaster Action Team. On that division, I would find myself responding to even greater disasters, such as responding to Hurricane Irma and Hurricane Michael. I would be staging shelters and housing people affected by storms. At this point, this would be the most challenging time in my life because I would see children genuinely scared in these shelters, parents helpless to provide proper comfort, and like literally everyone asking me questions. They're all facing me, like Red Cross representative, like what's gonna happen? What's happening now? What's happening back at home? So on and so forth. And there I was by myself. I don't know all the answers. As much as I'd like to provide all the answers, I don't have them all. While I'm trying to comfort them with the answers, in the back of my head, I'm already like planning all the stuff that I'm ultimately responsible for, aside from the members, which is thinking about the current rations, how to like kind of extend that out, supplies, and the worry of losing electricity and water. So those are some dire stuff to think about while still having that face to provide comfort. Everything that I've done were acts of care, at least on my book. That's how I understood how caring truly meant at the time. I was always looking for the next big thing on how I can express my care onto others. Then, one fateful day, my actions were questioned. Someone asked me, how do you show you care through your day-to-day actions? At that point, I realized I was so wrapped up on the future, on the big things, that I failed to realize the here and the now. I was so busy with preparing for those big things that I didn't even realize when was the last time I dropped everything I was doing just to ask a person that I know, how are you? I was shaking my head at the time. I could not even recall. So with that, I'm going to end my story for now. But I will impart that I fantasize that these stories never truly end. It just goes in chapters. And I'm happy to share the next chapter of my story later of caring. How it evolved from measuring it only through big actions to including smaller but impactful ones. My story is how my world around caring turned from a principle into an art. One more thing I'm going to part with is the stories aspect. With that 7.9 billion people I mentioned earlier, I would like to think that they all have at least one awesome story that people resonate with. I know the number of people in this room is nothing. It's just a teeny weeny part of that 7.9 billion, right? But like, more than my fingers combined. Like there's, so, I don't know, 11? Is there 11 of us? I don't know. That's 11 awesome stories for tonight, and I'm really excited to hear that. So with that being said, that's part one for me. Looking forward to the stories afterwards, and thank you so much.